Secure some price for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center. In this program, a presentation of Bet365. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price.
That's me.
Upon his return, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches and conducting things. Welcome home.
Thank you. Good to be back. Especially thank you for having a nice day upon my return. Apparently it was a little bit rainy over the weekend, so I'm glad Mother Nature welcomed me back with the red carpet. Very nice.
It's your world, Blake. We're all just living it. How was Stockholm? How was the World Championships?
First of all, on the city, if people haven't been, and I had mild expectations going in, I would put it on a very rarefied stratosphere of Prague and Paris in terms of how beautiful the city is. Overwhelmed by how amazing it was. Overwhelmed, yes.
Huh.
Like 10 out of 10, no notes. Like, honestly.
Very rare for Blake.
Beautiful.
He can pick a nit like no one can pick a nit. It wasn't too light for you?
A bit bright. You make sure you get blackout blinds wherever you're staying in. So, no, really great. The tournament was a lot of fun. So different because I've called a bunch of different tournaments, all with great atmospheres in their own right. The World Juniors, Spengler. This is something else. I mean, much bigger fan bases at World Juniors, just so you know, and it's getting better at even European-based. But Latvians and Canadians sort of overwhelm the World Juniors. That's about it.
Yeah.
Everybody else has got decent fan bases. The home country.
It was really picking up with the Swedes, but they just don't win gold medals there ever, and that's been part of the problem.
Yeah, and when it's in Sweden, the Swedes really support it. When it's in Czech, but if it's somewhere else, they don't travel as well. At the Worlds, everybody travels pretty well, except for the true minnows, the French, stuff like that. Like, there's not many French fans there. But everybody else travels in big numbers. Like Slovakians are there in numbers, Finns, Swedes, Czechs. Like, it's pretty fun.
Well, I'll say I watched Canada, Finland, Canada, Sweden. The atmosphere was amazing.
And there's actually not that many Canadians at that game because the Swedes bought up all the tickets.
Sure.
But here's the thing: if I would hint at where you should put your money in, if you wanted to go see Canada at one of these events, I would go to the Worlds over the World Juniors. It's a much bigger festival and party than the World Juniors. It's harder because it's not at a holiday time. So it's, you're less likely to bring your family to the Worlds. But if you and your wife, or you and your husband, or you and your buddy want to go see a game, or three at a Worlds, I'd go to the Worlds over the World Juniors. I really would. It's springtime too, so you're outside in patios drinking beer.
Well, also you had a native. Is it Stockholmian?
Only for one day. He was late to arrive.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Blake got taken out on the town.
Yes, by a native Swede. Yes. It's fun.
Well, good stuff. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Let's start with our Bogey Juice poll question today. And Jeff and I were kicking this around a little bit this week. Decided to formalize here with a poll question, especially to get your 2 cents here. If the Canucks need to trade a roster defenseman for this top 2 center, and remember, Jim Rutherford has said, more likely by trade, and then said late last week, we'll see about free agency. We may have spent our cap space by then. So he has on a couple of occasions already now forecasted, and he's done this before and then come through, that they are going to make a trade for a top 2 center more so than sign one in unrestricted free agency. So, if they need to trade a roster defenseman to achieve that, who should it be? Philip Roenick? Elias Pettersson? D. Petey? Marcus Pettersson? Here's the thing about Marcus Pettersson. He signed the extension with the Vancouver Canucks, and that kicks in July 1st, and that involves a no-move clause for the first several years of the deal. Right now, he's just got an 8-team no-trade list. Now, very unlikely you'd acquire a player in January, February, then move him on, but Tyler Meyer says the full no move. We didn't put Mancini on the list because, look, he he's doing great at Abbotsford. He may well be establishing himself as an NHL defenseman.
Yeah, or even a top prospect. But right now, I don't know the currency's there for him.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's interesting to a lot of teams, but I think you're a long way from getting a top 2 center with Victor Mancini as the centerpiece. I think that's more a Mancini, Lekkerimäki, Mancini, like that sort of package. So if it's going to be a roster guy, Roenick, Elias Pettersson, Marcus Pettersson, none of the above. What's this, you?
I think I'm a none of the above, both from a strategy and from a likelihood. As you said, cold hard business, I would certainly consider Marcus Pettersson. But, like, will they? Like, as you said, it's not going to happen. So I can vote that all I want.
Well,
but
especially the endorsement that Jim Rutherford gave him. You know, like, I've been around this guy. You know, he fixed my defense. Why? He's going to fix it again.
So if you're just looking at the pieces and you didn't know his context, I would say Marcus Pettersson. But it's not going to happen. Elias Pettersson, as much as he has improved his currency, I still think the Canucks love him more than anybody else does. So I don't think that actually moves the needle enough for you to get that center anyhow. And a right shot center, a right shot defenseman like Roenick, like then you're right back chasing down again a key component of your hockey game. So of your hockey team. So that's not going to happen either.
So you're none of the above.
None of the above. Not going to happen.
Before we go any further, I'm just realizing this golf shirt is hideous.
Really?
Why did I ever buy this? Mike, how did you let me get on camera with this thing? I had my zip up on earlier.
You didn't have any mirrors at your house?
Honestly, it looked pretty good on the rack.
It was a little bit dark this morning.
I wear it, you know, on the golf course, it's fine because, you know, hideous is accepted on the golf course.
Yes, it is, yeah.
But it's got speckles of yellow in it, too.
Yellow?
Yeah.
I don't see the yellow.
Well, greenish yellow, like there's a neon. Anyways,
fashion files are allowed here.
I apologize for this. As a matter of fact, next time you talk, I'm going to put this on over here. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I'm surprised Carmen let me out of the house in this thing.
It's not that bad, honestly.
Although maybe she just delights in it. He looks like a fool again. I voted Elias Pettersson. Don't hate me.
Okay.
I considered none of the so. Let's backtrack for a second. I would support a full long-term vision for the Vancouver Canucks, building a team over several years as opposed to lurching year to year as they have under this ownership group and now yet another management team. But if that is not part of the equation, and let's face it, it's not part of the equation, Francesco values that playoff revenue year in, year out. And as we've said in the past, there's somewhat of a nobility in that, right? You know, I want to deliver playoff hockey to the fans. I mean, it comes at the expense of vision and team building, but I get it. Mm-hmm. So if that arrow is not in the quiver, look, I would support a trade of a 15th overall and one of Lekkerimäki and Wielander for the right top 2 center. But hear my mouth on this one. Elias Pettersson. Is his value ever going to be higher? Maybe if he goes out and has another great year this year and is still on the ELC.
A full NHL year, yes.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. But we already know this is the guy that teams are calling about. And while we absolutely love him and the profile he brings to the Vancouver Canucks, a mean defenseman who hits everything, right?
And a reminder, folks, he has 2 more years
for
coming
sure.
On his ELC.
But this is the point, Blake.
Yeah.
Is I think he gets you further down the road where whatever second piece you're adding to the equation is not of the caliber of the second piece you would have to add in the equation if we're talking the 2 top prospects and the first-round pick. Like, it sounds to me like the league is hot to trot for this profile of defenseman. And needless to say, like the Vancouver Canucks and all of us who watch the Canucks have looked in on this guy and said, wow, give me one of those.
Yeah.
So would hate to lose him. Would also hate to lose the oddity of 2 Elias Petterssons on one team. But he's going to play third pair minutes next year, right?
Yep.
He's behind Quinn Hughes. He's behind Marcus Pettersson.
Mm-hmm.
So he can only be that valuable to your hockey club next season. A top 2 center gets you way further ahead than even a very nice step-up season from Elias Pettersson playing third pair minutes.
Except the Canucks are one of the few cap-strapped, and I don't mean cap-strapped in terms that they're up against the cap, but they're cap-strapped in terms of they have a lot of needs, and they don't have quite enough money to address all the needs. So he's like a free spot of the bingo.
I hear you. I mean, you re-signed Forbert. He's what, $700,000-800,000 more expensive? Not a lot.
No.
And then there's this Noah Strang here, ex of the Daily Hive. We'll miss Noah. But last week, upon his hiring Adam Foote, penalty kill excelled under Adam Foote. Right, it had been such a sore spot for the Vancouver Canucks, and last year, boy, especially the second half of the season, it was outstanding. I mean, that was one of the better areas of the team. Canucks became much better defensively under Foote, and that's Foote and Tocchet, because let's remember what underpinned the Vancouver Canucks' success, to the extent they had any this year and the previous season when they made the playoffs, won the division, was fantastic team defense. Not just the 6 defensemen on any given night, but the way the forwards defend and the way the goaltenders.
Holistic approach.
Yeah, holistic. Yeah. His excellent relationship with Quinn Hughes, we'll get into that. But then you got the most from multiple defensemen. Philip Hronek, his career stepped up here under Adam Foote. Tyler Myers got better under Adam Foote. Nikita Zadorov did good work under Adam Foote. Then look at this past season. Elias Pettersson, Derek Forbert in the second half, even Mancini. So you have a head coach now with a track record of getting more out of his defensemen, coaching guys up, turning them into better players. So is it an area where you can afford to lose some personnel because you wholly believe in the head coach and whoever he taps now to run his defense, getting the best out of your group of blue liners? I'm just putting that out there because, look, top 2 center icemen are very rarely available and usually cost a whole lot. And while I think there's a world where you can get a top 2 defenseman or a top 2 center for futures, if you include the top defense prospect Tom Wheelander, Lekramaki, and or the first-round pick, some combination thereof. Cam Robinson said this to us yesterday. You've got to have GMs who want that 15th overall pick, right? Who view it as currency. It's not a strong a draft. GMs won't be as enticed to take a mid-first-round pick this year as they would in other years. I have no doubt that everybody looks at Lekramaki and Wheelander and thinks, yeah, there's some good prospects, could be very good NHL players. But you're not satisfying the win now of the opposing GM, the acquiring GM,
right,
if you will. So, I put it all together, and, I do wonder whether they're going to have to cross the bridge on, do we move one of these roster defensemen? And is it the younger, cheaper Elias Pettersson?
And if you can find somebody that's as smitten with Elias Pettersson as you say they might be, then sure, absolutely. Because I think what you would think if you're the Canucks right now is our best chance of being good is to get a certified number 2 center at the expense of our bottom pair.
Yeah, that's a trade you make all the time.
So, if you've got a certified top 4, which with Hronek Hughes, Marcus Pettersson, and Tyler Myers, lean on that certified top 4, and you've got a bit of a ragtag third pair. Forbert and Mancini, something to that effect, and a platoon with Wheelander.
But the fact is, a lot of teams have a ragtag third pair.
Yep.
The fact is that...
and Kudrasev's going to be ready for some spot duty next year, too.
Already played.
Yeah.
And look, I understand people, and I can hear the retort, and it's a valid one. If you make that trade and Quinn Hughes leaves next summer or says, I'm not going to re-sign, and you're forcing to trade him, then you're sitting there going, boy, Elias Pettersson will look great now in the top 4. And I hear you. Couple of things there. Number one, of Quinn Hughes wants out, you got much bigger problems.
Yeah.
Now, number two,
And you also get something back.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
You're going to get a haul for Quinn Hughes in any kind of trade scenario. So, don't like to have to consider this. It is symbolic of still a thin organization. They're getting better. They're getting deeper, but not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And if the prospects and the picks can get it done, giddy up. If that's not getting it done, you're going to have to turn your attention to this, I think.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Making matters worse on this shirt today,
Mm-hmm.
it's all for naught. I thought I was playing golf, checked my calendar. Oh, double booked for tomorrow.
It's okay. We have a solution.
Glorious
We have a solution.
Afternoon like this, not on the golf course.
So you're thinking to
Now
yourself,
she wants to go out.
you're probably thinking to yourself, I've now missed an opportunity to drink bogey juice.
Mm-hmm.
Except, no, this is the beauty of bogey juice. It can be the single serving shot after a bogey suffered on the golf course, bogey one in this case. Or you get the big bottle of bogey juice, mix it with some soda, over some ice, get yourself a fabulous apple ginger vodka cocktail that is going to be the hit of the spring and summer season. Every spring and summer, there's something new that catches people's imagination, the drink of the summer. This year, bogey juice. Go to bogeyjuice.com, use the code SP15, get 15% off your order of bogey juice. Don't forget the merch.
Should have just worn my Northlands shirt. Have you seen those beautiful Northlands golf shirts?
Should have used your bogey juice merch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're right.
Could have done that too.
Right. It's a great. I like my bogey juice cap on the golf course. Our top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. I mean, his name's in the show and he's back. Blake's back.
I'm the top story.
Well, no. The top story is your take on Adam Foote because we have not heard you since it became official with the hiring of Adam Foote in the press conference last week. What struck you?
What struck me was the fact that he was brought on, basically. I mean, I really didn't think that they would go down this route. I thought it was...
You thought it was a token interview of the existing assistant.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I thought they owed it to Quinn to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they actually secured him. Now, we have seen, we'll get into more of this later here, but a lot of the names that were being bandied about as front runners for NHL head coaching jobs have not got the jobs. You know, like it's outside of the marquee guys of Tocchet and Sullivan, like all the other names.
Quenneville in Anaheim was, I think,
incredible too. But again, pedigreed, big name.
Jeff Blashill today in Chicago.
No one expected that. No one expected that. So, hey, the Woodcrofts, the Loves, the Vellucci's of the world, it just hasn't come to pass. Yeah. You know,
were you? They talked about, and when I say they, I mean Patrick Alvin, because he was on the dais with Foote. Rutherford was off to the side. They talked about continuity, Blake, and somebody who understood the room and everything that went on this year.
Something to be said for that.
And we agreed. But the other thing that Jeff, Patrick, and I were kicking around last week when all this went down is there was also a case for a clean break, right? Just rid yourself of any reminder of this past dreadful season. Where were you on that? Bigger case for continuity or bigger case for clean break?
I don't know that, you know, any toxicity that was in the room lives on because the same coach that was there is back. Same, you know, again, an assistant that's now the head. I don't draw that line necessarily. It doesn't jump out at me as a risk or a serious possibility. So, no, I'll say that. I'll say that the continuity is probably a bigger factor, keeping Quinn happy, all that sort of stuff. All those are probably more likely scenarios than, now the toxicity, people that remember what happened or there's the majority of the roster was there too. That's the bigger risk, is that the majority of the roster that was privy to all that went down, they are still there. So one coach of crossover or of overlap, it'll be potentially probably more than one coach. That to me doesn't jump off the page necessarily, no.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I know jumped off the page for you, because we name checked you a lot on this, was the way Adam Foote addressed a question about Elias Pettersson. We're going to play the clip, and then we're going to come back and discuss, because, Blake, finally, somebody is saying nice things about him. The parenting sandwich. Here's Adam Foote.
Yeah, Petey and I had some pretty good discussions this year, and you know, I really think he wants it, and you know, I really think he knows what he has to do, and he's going to dial in, and he's got a great group around him supporting him, and you know, being a team for him, and I'm going to make sure that I have that conversation with him, and we continue that relationship, and I support him. I think with Petey, just for him moving forward, I think just that support for him will really get him in a good place, and we're going to make sure that he understands that we're there for him, and we'll do whatever it takes and have a great relationship.
That support, Blake. Make sure he knows and understands we are all there for him.
He hit so many points in that comment about what's what's to be optimistic about Elias Pettersson. Yep. He wants it. He's got the right people around him. Like those were,
I know.
Those were question marks thrown out by
a couple weeks earlier,
yes,
by the guy who was hand in hand with Adam Foote coaching this thing.
By both Rick Tocchet and management.
Does
he have the right people around him? Does he want it? Those were the question marks. And 10 days later, Foote's like, no, it's all good.
And I don't know if that was conscious on Adam's part, that he wanted to draw that distinction, or he just felt like that somebody around here's got to build the kid up a little bit, or if this, marks a very distinct difference between Adam Foote and Rick Tocchet and the way they're going to go about handling, well, this player in particular, if not broader. We shall see. We're still learning Adam Foote. But that was both, Blake, his best answer of the press conference, and I felt the one that most delineated him and made him Adam Foote, head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, not Adam Foote, Rick Tocchet assistant who has graduated into the top job.
Yeah. There's things are going to be a little bit different around here, and starting right now. That was to me the highlight of the hiring day.
Sure. For sure,
everything else was pretty standard.
Yeah.
Boilerplate stuff.
And you'd been calling for this for a long time. And look, I was...
As strategy, not because I felt bad for Pettersson necessarily. A small element of that, but you need to do this both as protecting Elias Pettersson, the asset, and protecting him as Elias Pettersson, your number one center.
Player, yes. And I'd been more on the, hey, give me the truth. I can handle the truth as you see it. And I felt it was very important for management and the coaching staff to message as honestly as they could to fans and media about what happened to Elias Pettersson this past season. Needless to say, he was in the center of the storm with JT Miller, not to mention a poor season offensively. So I felt that was very, very important. But even I found myself towards the end, and the last couple of press conferences with Alvin and Tocchet and Rutherford interviews is, okay, I think you've got him down on the ground. Now it's time to extend a hand and lift him.
Well, it's also
lift him up a little bit.
It's also just thrashing the dead horse. Like, we got it. We understand how you feel about the player and the changes that he needs to make. We've got it.
Now, what did you make? Tocchet said Adam Foote's got to give him like a minute by minute itinerary for his whole day. Pettersson, that's the best way to go about coaching him. Corrado told us yesterday he thought that was crazy stuff. He's like, you've got to trust the player to some degree. You got to tell him, here's what you got to do today. Do it on your own time. We're not going to be looking over your shoulder, looking at our watches like, Elias, it's 10:23. You got to get on to the next exercise.
Not to mention, this isn't a 22-year-old kid who keeps sleeping in past practice. And so you need to do like, this is a veteran now of a near decade in the National Hockey League. Like,
Well,
you've got to give him a little bit more credit than that.
and I hear you, Blake, but it sounds like they feel like they need to micromanage him. At least at the Jim Rutherford, Patrick Allvin, Rick Tocchet level. Well, again, this is an area where Adam Foote can break with his old boss and chart a new path. When we had the debate about what went on in clean break, what's very important for Foote is he's got to give these players clean slates. Like, he has got to bury the past. And that Elias Pettersson answer, I thought, was really good. I would have liked him to go a little bit further. Jeff and I talked about there wasn't a single answer in the press conference that was really the headline for the fan base. There was some decent messaging in there, but I would have liked if he had gone into that, and typically this happens with the help of the PR team, is go in there and give them something. Like, give the fans something to look at, to hold on to, and say, yes, this is our head coach. I'm not sure he had that moment. He's not necessarily that sort of personality, but I felt there were a couple of items that he could have owned a little bit better and turned into the banner headline, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, or this is what I'm going to do with this player.
It's a tough press conference, though, in that he doesn't know what his team is yet. Right? Like, he really, there's going to be significant changes to his team.
He's got to move forward on he's got to move forward on the premise that Hughes and Pettersson are going to be.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the key cogs. He talked about Demko a little bit. Those key cornerstone players. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knows that. But there's going to be 5 players we don't know who they are right now that are going to be on this team next year.
What did you make of Quinn utterly removing himself from the process? Jim Rutherford said he called him to ask him for coaching candidates. Didn't want to answer and give any names. Both Patrick Allvin and Adam Foote said no, they cut off communication with Quinn Hughes during the interview process.
That's old school Quinn hockey guy going, I'm not a tall poppy. I'm not going to control this process. I'm not LeBron Jaming this.
And I think also I've said what I've said about Adam Foote. Take that for what it's worth. And that's my point.
I've said my piece.
Yeah.
Said my piece on this. And hey.
All that said, like we talked about it last week. I think it's one thing for all of them to come out and say that. I think it's an entirely different thing to select a coach that you weren't sure about with Quinn Hughes, and they did not do that. So whether he was involved in the process or not, it sure looks like his influence had a say in this hiring.
They had AI Quinn Hughes in the room with them. They know what he's thinking, or they've got a guess on what he's thinking. The chatbot Quinn Hughes, they probably built a chatbot and they're like, what do you think, Quinn?
Yeah.
And then the feedback was there, yes, hire Adam Foote. And so they did.
Yeah. Brad Shaw, former Canucks assistant, will not be part of the assistant group here. That was a name that was bandied about. He's joining Sheldon Keefe on the New Jersey Devils bench. What do you make of Crow as an assistant here? Head coaching experience, familiarity with Adam Foote, lives here, is loved by Canucks fans.
I bet you Mark would love that. I haven't spoken to him about it, but I bet Mark would love it.
He was supposed to be on the show today. He told me that something had come up and that he would be unavailable all week. Don't know what it is. I joked with him. I'm like, I expect to hear you on Foote staff, Coach. So we'll see. We'll see.
Interesting.
But everyone seems
would
to
him
think,
being a coach on the Canucks preclude him from joining Sakaris and Price, Matt?
The big reveal. What I will say is, do you concur that of the assistants, one offensive, one defensive guy, one of them should be a previous NHL head coach?
I hadn't really thought of that. I just saw that recently on social from just a fan writing about it.
Well, it's the big talk, right?
Yeah,
like a lot of fans are saying that.
It stands to reason.
Yes.
We've seen that in football. You know, if you've got a rookie head coach, you have an OC or DC that's been a former head too. There's balance in the force there if you do that a little bit, you know. And boy, that's a great resource then for the rookie head coach, right? And I don't think it's intimidation. Like Mark Crawford will not, and this is not a condemnation, he's not going to be a head coach in the NHL again. I feel pretty confident with that prediction. So there's no intimidation, like they're bringing in this
maybe
guy.
Maybe as the Rick Bonus career arc, but
those are outliers.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Very rare.
So I don't think Foote's intimidated by having a head coach like that, especially. Yeah, it might be a fit, and yeah, as an approach generally, yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that's probably a positive for Adam Foote, especially given the qualms that people have about his one chance behind the bench as a head coach.
Yeah.
It would maybe quell any fears about that.
I think so. And that's why I wonder about Crawford, who's known him forever, kind of being perfectly suited for that, right? Not to mention, Mark knows a thing or two about losing your cool on the bench.
Yeah, and Crow, for the most part, I think has really had a turnabout.
He's done a lot of work.
Yeah.
And he's been very open and honest about the work that he's done. But back in the day, it was common to see NHL coaches losing their shit on the bench. And Mark was high up those power rankings. Torts was high up those power rankings. Even AV
he could lose his cool.
Yeah, from time to time with officials.
Foot on the dash.
I put my foot on the dasher. I said, that's a penalty. And the fact of the matter is NHL head coaches have now gone the way of what we saw and heard out of Tocchet over the last few years. Not many come as fiery as Rick Tocchet, and yet Rick made a concerted effort that I am not going to lose my cool on the bench. I don't want the players to see that. He didn't even want to celebrate victories. Remember, he got mad at himself for high-fiving that fan after the big playoff win. He didn't like to show that.
No emotion.
Because he just wanted to be even keeled. That's what he wanted to project, not just to his players, but to the referees as well. And every single time he got asked about officiating, like with rare exception here over 2.5 years, he's a good ref. Right? He was not looking to litigate the calls that went against him outside of the few seconds he's got on the bench after the call is made. That's where that discussion was going to take place for Tocchet, and then that was that. They were moving on. Can't do anything about it. Most important shot is the next shot, and I don't want to get in the bad graces of officials by consistently in the media post-game messaging how crap I thought the calls were, which I thought was really good tactics from Tocchet, and I hope Foote has learned that.
I hope Foote has learned both the communication inwardly and outwardly from Rick Tocchet and how that was received in that, hey, did we have days where we were like, can you believe Tocchet said that? There was a few of those. But I think every time we said that, it was still, for the most part, I remember it being fair comment by Rick Tocchet, whether you wanted to debate it or not. It wasn't outlandish, whatever he said. And the honesty, for the most part, was appreciated by, I think, fans and media alike. And the tone was appreciated because it was a respectful tone always with Rick Tocchet. So, hey, as you know, you can concur here. I didn't always see eye to eye with Rick Tocchet on deployment and this and that and strategy sometimes. But my God, as a guy to work with, and I can imagine the players like that part. As a guy to work around, fans and media, I think they like that part.
Hey, we make no mistake. I mean, something was lost here with Rick Tocchet choosing to leave the Vancouver Canucks.
He sold Canuck hockey.
Did he ever?
Yeah.
And he also took us into the conversation and made us all smarter hockey people because of his willingness to engage in the discussion. And like Blake said, you could disagree with some of the things. Some of the things he espoused, some of the things that he believed in. But you were richer for the answers for the conversation. We all were. With Coach Tocchet over the last couple of years. Do they have Yellow Dog in Sweden?
They don't.
They really should.
They don't. In fact, I didn't see much craft beer at all. It's
what?
Yeah, it's big brewery stuff there. They
really?
just
Okay.
Yeah, they just trust the big brewers to churn it out. Good beer, but I missed the good stuff. I really did. So it's good to be back on Canadian soil right now and to be thinking about summer drinking beer. Yellow Dog's released the new Sour Series mix pack. Great in the summertime, especially early in the afternoon maybe where you're not quite ready for a beer. Well, you double the fun with this mix pack. 2 bold and fruit-loaded sours, the Sundog Raspberry Peach Sour and the Wave Rider Mango Pineapple Sour. It's your new go-to zesty, tangy sidekick. Hit in your local liquor store soon. Keep your eyes open.
Full disclosure, I had one yesterday at about 12:55.
Yeah.
I was watching that Europa final.
If you know you've got a few of those ahead of you in the day, if you know you're going to be, out there drinking beer, starting with the sour or mixing it up with a sour, quite like it. Good palate cleanser, too.
Abbotsford Canucks win 3-2, an overtime thriller in Colorado. Linus Karlsson with the game-winning goal, his team leading 5th of the playoffs as the Baby Canucks take a 2-1 series lead in their best of 5 against the Colorado Eagles, the number 1 team in the Pacific Division this past year. Of course, Abby, number 2. Victor Mancini and Max Sasson also score. Sasson ties the game midway through the 3rd period, forces overtime in a game the Canucks never led. Jonathan Lekramaki with 2 assists. So we've got prospects dotting the score sheet just in time for his Nibs arrival back here. Mancini 3 points in all 3 games in this series. Lekramaki with 2 straight 2-point efforts. Karlsson has goals in 2 of the 3 games. And Archer Shilovs bouncing back after another terrible game 2. He's played terrible game 2s in all 3 playoff series. 35 saves for the win. He led in a weak one early. Then he stops our old friend Jason Magna on a breakaway in overtime. Dave Hall of Canucks Army, and of course sitting in with Jeff on Rink-Wide Vancouver, Rink-Wide Abbey for these post-game shows. Lekramaki scored his first goal of the playoffs in game 2. You could almost see the monkey jumping off his back. And then on Mancini, he adds he's an absolute unit. Big reason why they're a perfect, 27 for 27, or 29 for 29, I believe is the update on the penalty kill.
Tremendous. This is the box score I've been waiting for. 8 points handed out to Vancouver Canucks, or Abbey Canucks yesterday, depending on what you want to classify Jet Wu as. It's either 8 of 8 or 7 of 8 of those points going to Canucks prospects, like real prospects. And yes, I am including Sasson and Karlsson in there. Yes, they are older and they are B-grade prospects. But we saw that speed and swagger from Sasson last year at the NHL level. Not consistently, but we saw the flashes, which was nice to see. And, Matt, I am wondering if Linus Karlsson is going to be a late-blooming net front presence scorer.
I think Linus Karlsson and Max Sasson are going to play a lot of games next year for the Vancouver Canucks.
A, cheap. B, there is, and pardon the pun, there is prospect to their game. You can see why you should be interested. This is what we ask of all prospects. Show me for a moment only why I should be excited or dream big for you.
Show me some sort of NHL trait.
Right.
Something that you can lean on, that can be your cane, your go-to if you're playing NHL minutes.
And both of these guys have done that.
Yeah. Sasson with his speed, and particularly as a puck carrier as well.
Yeah.
And then Linus Karlsson as a net front guy, and frankly, Tocchet liked his board work as well.
Yep, for sure.
He doesn't have great feet. He's never going to be a burner. He's not going to be scoring a ton of goals streaming down the rush. But
he's crafty,
half court,
and smart.
For sure.
I was very nonplussed by him at one point in the proceedings.
So was I. I can remember having the conversation. You, me, and Jeff basically say, okay, I think I've seen just about enough of Linus Karlsson. It was like 14 games, no goals in the NHL. It was like, I'm not sure what they see.
I didn't know why they kept on giving him chances.
Exactly. And Tocchet would still talk about him fondly. And I'm going, okay, coach, I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but it's what makes you the pro. So and I love the run that Mancini is getting here too.
Yeah, totally.
Because again, that is a guy who I suspect will play an awful lot of games for the Vancouver Canucks next year, and I'm wondering whether he can springboard this performance in the Calder Cup playoffs and basically go in there next year, be the third pair right side defenseman without question. Like, there's no more healthy scratching. There's no more, we're going to rotate him out today and bring some. No. that you're just the guy there. You play every night. You play 15 to 16 minutes, whatever is going to be appropriate for a third pair defense.
So what are you doing with Tom Wielander in that scenario?
Well, look, and of course, Tom
You're never
Wielander
healthy.
is not.
You're never healthy, but
Tom Wielander is not playing AHL games right now, so has missed this opportunity through no fault of his own. Well, first of all, I'm starting Tom Wielander in Abbotsford.
Yeah.
I'm keeping a veteran seventh defenseman and eighth if they want to chalk up the roster that way. But no, unless Tom Wielander blows me away in training camp and in preseason to the point where I look at it and I go, he's already better than Mancini without a doubt, like bar none.
Yeah.
Then I'm starting Wielander in Abbotsford because he can.
Well,
he's not subject to waivers. You can call him up and
right.
down as often as you want. You want to play him big minutes, right? And, third pair minutes. It would be, it's doable.
Mancini on ELC as well. So both of them are with impunity up and down. You could foresee a world where it's 41 games apiece, and when you're not playing in the NHL, you're playing in the AHL.
Yeah, no.
No?
No,
Thank you?
No. For me, as Willie D once said, this isn't the development league. To me, it's whoever gives you the best chance to win, night in, night out.
Well, next year, that's certainly the case.
If that is Victor Mancini, then that is Victor Mancini. If that is Tom Wielander, then that is Tom Wielander. If it is close, okay, I leave open the possibility to what you're talking about, but I think you've got to go with your best guys out of the hop next year.
Really too bad Aturatu continues to be injured. I would love to see him jump back in
Yeah.
there, but
They got Wolanin back, and Danila Klimovic played last night as well.
yeah.
So that was good to see. This is a best of 5, which means the Abbey Canucks can wrap this puppy up on Friday. Game 4 in Colorado, 6 p.m. Friday. And they got 2 shots to win the series here. Game 5 goes Monday afternoon. We talked about this with Jeff yesterday. It's 2 p.m. because it's a Memorial Day holiday in the U.S. on Monday. So matinee if it has to go the distance to 5 games. And if you are wondering, because with 1 win away, you can project forward, the winner here plays the winner of the Texas-Milwaukee series, which is the other Western series. Texas is up 2-1. That's the Dallas Stars farm team.
I think it's pretty well supported, that Texas.
Well, and of course, Milwaukee is the Nashville Predators affiliate where, they've had so many guys develop there and then turn into National Hockey Leaguers.
Yeah.
I mean, very few NHL organizations have gotten better development work out of an affiliate than what Milwaukee has provided for Nashville for all these years. So
I'll be interested to see how much farther the Abbey Canucks need to go before I get my first, chat with anybody, whether it's a friend or somebody in the store that says, hey, I'm going to go check out an Abbey Canucks game. Like, when does that moment happen?
Well, I've had a few of those already. Yep. Shout out longtime audience member Cindy.
I
She
think
tells me she's watching the game. She's going to the games in Abbotsford.
I think next round that's a legitimate possibility here because
and the barn's been sold out here, and the atmosphere's been awesome. At Abbey Center. So good on you.
Yeah, the atmosphere's been great.
The story is there now. The story is there. The team is there.
I wish,
and they're getting their just desserts.
I wish there was a more streamlined way to find these games.
Yeah, no, I know.
Less I digress.
Okay. Moving on, the Canucks have signed a European free agent, Henri Ravinskis.
Yes.
Tell me you've just come back from calling the IIHF World Championships without telling me you've just come back. Or were we going to insist on the European pronunciation?
That's
okay. Yeah. So anyway, it's more on Elias Pettersson.
But I called a bunch of his games, and sit down when I tell you this, Matt. Big-bodied, skates well, hard-nosed player.
No hands.
He's a Latvian. One goal, 1 assist.
Teddy Bluegers abides.
Yeah, and insert Latvian player abides.
We're still waiting for that first Latvian
star
scorer. Big boy, 6'3", 201 pounds, winger, 22 years old, be 23 midway through next calendar season. Actually moved to Toronto to play some youth hockey at the U18 level, and then made it to the Quebec Major Junior League, where he played for the Blainville-Boisbriand Armada over 2 seasons.
You're allowed to roll R's for French? Interesting.
French is an official language of this country, Blake Price. It's 58 points and 108. You can go to the courthouse right here, Blake, and ask to be served in French. 58 points in 108 Q games, which isn't great.
Not prolific.
No. But then he went over and played pro hockey in Finland.
Second-tier Mestis, and then this past year finally played for the top-level Liga in Finland and was 17 points in 27 games.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
Yep.
And again, just 22. So there's development left there.
Here's the other thing I like about it. The Canucks signed a player. Didn't sign a college free. It wasn't a great college free agent crop. But one of the things I was wondering is, okay, they're nickel-diming Wiellander on bonuses. Like, are they out on signing European and college free agents? Because that's another additional expense. Like, so it's a good sign for the Canucks, and it may be a good signing. We shall see. The Edmonton Oilers. We have a colleague who's a big Edmonton fan. He was in here earlier, and just let it slide. It's game one. But we will say here they gave up 5 third-period goals. Goal prevention is an issue again with the Oilers. They blow the 3-1 lead heading into the third. And they trail the Western Conference Final 1-0 to Dallas. The only solace for the Edmonton Oilers is that it was merely the second biggest choke job in the postseason last night. How about the New York Knicks? Game 1 at the Garden, Eastern Conference Final. The whole city of New York is hyped for this game. We talked about it yesterday. Just randomly, streets are closed because there are too many humans. What's happening is, because everybody in New York lives in a building, right? The Knicks are winning these games. People are getting in the elevator, going down to street level for the party, and then the next thing you know, there's too many humans on streets, and suddenly the police are scrambling to close Manhattan streets. Knicks were up 14 points with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in their game against the Indiana Pacers. NBA teams who had been in that spot in the playoffs were 970-0 until last night. But wait, there's more. Teams up 9 points in the final minute, as the Knicks were, had won all 1,414 playoff games since 1998.
All of them.
Every single one of them. And for old NBA heads like you and me, Blake, Tyrese Halliburton gave Reggie Miller the choke sign after he hit the shot. He thought it was for the win. It was actually a 2-pointer, so it sent the game to overtime. The same gesture, of course, that Reggie Miller gave Spike Lee and the Knicks fans during their iconic 1994 playoff series when he scored all those points in the final seconds.
Before we finish up on the NHL playoffs,
yeah,
Panthers and Hurricanes in game 2 tonight. Here's a take for you. Mm-hmm. For anybody that's still holding out hope, and I think it's most people are of the 1% here.
Yeah.
On the Canucks signing Sam Bennett.
Okay.
This will, particularly if they win tonight, where it becomes pretty apparent they're going to go to the Stanley Cup final, I think, if they win tonight. Yes, it's only 2-0, but this team just knows how to win. This will be his third year in a row playing about 100 NHL games.
And hard minutes with that young man.
Yeah.
Very hard
Like,
minutes.
how many more years of recovery does that guy need?
Yep.
Like, next year alone, I would suspect you have a pretty down year from Sam Bennett the minute you sign him.
Well, I also
100
wonder what
games a year.
I also wonder what he's going to be like outside of that environment and the way the Florida Panthers play.
There's always
because
that
I
risk.
think their playing style, their coaching style of Paul Maurice very much is tailor-made for this guy.
Yeah.
And the other thing is he's just never been a big point producer. No. So
he's slotted perfectly.
He is.
Where he is.
And look, I think we'll see what the summer brings here, but I think paying for a Sam Bennett for the Vancouver Canucks puts more money into an area where I think they're already reasonably strong, and that is goal prevention. Because I think Bennett is a better defensive player than he is a offensive player.
Traditionally, that's been the case. Every once in a while, he'll bring out just a spectacular goal.
And he's got that skill. He was a top 5 pick and all that. But, if I felt like Sam Bennett with the Vancouver Canucks could take a big step forward offensively, like if I felt like his point totals were being suppressed in Florida for whatever reason.
No, I don't think that at all.
But I don't think that. No, I don't. I think this is what he is, and that is a sublime second-line center, but not your traditional, setup artist, creative playmaker,
/ dick.
60-point guy.
He's
right?
an idiot to play against.
No, he's
you love all that part of his game, but it's hard miles.
Yeah.
It's limited in its upside offensively.
Yep. Now, Florida has won a cup here and has been to 2 straight Stanley Cup finals, but by stacking excellent but not prolific scoring centers, like because Barkov isn't, he's not vying for Art Ross trophies or anything like that. That has been a successful formula. You look at St. Louis and how they stacked centers in their cup year. The Kings, certainly with Kopitar, although Kopitar, I think, was a cut above offensively at one point.
At one point, yeah.
At one point. So is that a formula, a route to a Stanley Cup? Yeah, could be. But if I'm Jim Rutherford and Alvin, boy, I'd be sweating a Bennett contract. It's going to be super, super expensive. And if he's not scoring and you still got goal scoring problems and you're going to have to put more assets and more money into beefing up the offense after paying him $10 million a year, whatever he's going to cost, because someone's going to give him a lot of money. I don't know. I've got some skepticism.
It reeks of...
he makes them better. Of that, there's no doubt. But
it reeks of also overpaying, though, a guy that is the flavor of the month. And it's at a different level than you often see. Like, this is at the top end. But they're still overpaying for a good guy. You don't pay 10 out of 10 money for a guy who's an 8 out of 10. And he's a great player. I'd have him on my team in a New York minute. But in a cap era, you got to be careful.
Yeah, and one last thing coming out of that basketball talk: Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your NBA MVP. That's
7 years in a row.
2 guys,
non-Americans.
3 trophies now for Canada.
Yeah.
Steve Nash, a 2-time winner, of course, and now he has company in Gilgeous-Alexander.
To me, it's another reason why World Cup of basketball and Olympic basketball
got to do better at the Olympics.
Like, it's just so fun to watch, though. Like the United States should be trembling at what the rest of the planet's doing.
For sure. Menu brought to you by our friends at Greta, who are celebrating a birthday on Saturday. Happy birthday, Greta, 3 years old, and celebrating with $3 drinks from 8 to 10 p.m. They will have giveaways. They will have surprises. If you're in the room, you get a chance to win one of 10 VIP Greta experiences. Of course, they got the amazing arcade. We've told you about that. The street food menu. Try the what do they call, birra tacos? Amazing. This Saturday at Greta, 50 West Cordova. Be there and let the games begin. We will talk to Patrick Johnson here. We will talk to Rob Williams. Our first chance to talk to Rob about the hiring of Adam Foote. And Patrick with an interesting article earlier this week where he mused about Jim Rutherford's future and whether that played any role in Tocchet's decision. All of that is coming up. Did the chat agree with my shirt take?
They did. They were thankful. Yeah.
Were they? Good.
Yeah.
No, I.
They too did not want to look at that shirt.
No.
I think it's harsh.
I'm glad.
Judgment.
I'm glad I put an end to that. That was awful fashion here. Not that we're beacons or anything, but we don't want to wear anything that puts people off.
No.
Bet365 Bets of the Daytime, the segment proudly brought to you by Bet365. Blake wasn't here, so and I won because I had the Pacers and the points. Back when we used to do a hot take segment, Florida does not lose again.
The Panthers?
Is that a sizzler?
That's pretty sizzly, yeah.
It was 3-0 in the Cup final last year,
and
right?
not a wild
they let
statement.
Edmonton all the way back.
I think they could sweep the Hurricanes, but I think they give up games.
Carolina, all they do is get swept in Eastern Conference Finals. It's been 3 times they've lost 13 consecutive.
Oh my God!
Eastern Conference Finals games. I'm going Panthers again tonight because you're getting them at plus value too, plus 110 to win in Carolina.
I'm going to the basketball game. And buoyed by that trophy you just talked about, 35 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets me plus 165. Just has to get past 335.
Just 35.
Yeah. Well, but, they are pretty singularly focused. That's a team that...
Yeah, they know where their bread is buttered.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember the thing they used to say, and I believe Michael even said this himself about Jordan? Michael, you're averaging 32 points in the playoffs. Oh, well, it's not a big deal. It's 8 1/4.
Yeah.
Not that big a deal. I kind of feel the same way about Shea.
Yeah.
It's like, 8 1/4.
32 is very doable.
Yeah. Night in, night out. Want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you. Game props, player props, totals, money line. Bet these conference champions, Stanley Cup champion, and more. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs must be 19 or older. PJ, coming up next. Sakaris, he's Price. This is the Wall Center.
And Toyota makes the BZ4X. You remember the Prius? It's really started the electric vehicle revolution. And here we are all these years later, the latest addition to that Toyota lineup with that emblem that stands for quality and longevity in vehicles. The BZ4X. And 100% electric. You're in the HOV lane. You're not stopping for gas ever again. And a vehicle is built for BC. With the all-wheel drive especially, you are going anywhere you want to go, whether it's summer, winter, or anything in between. When you choose the BZ4X, you also get a chance for a $5,000 incentive. And you can finance the BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Shop Toyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer.
My brother picked me up in his 10-year-old Camry yesterday. I looked at the odometer. I'm like, 120K. This thing is still wet behind the ears.
It's like 20% there. Yeah.
Patrick Johnston covers the Canucks for the Province and Postmedia. He joins us now.
How are you?
Well, I'm well. Matt, as a young lad in Ottawa, were Toyota dealers jumping? Was that a thing in Ottawa as well? Because whenever I think Pacific Toyota deals, I think of jumping in the air and red jackets.
The Toyota thing. That was the Toyota thing.
Yes, I suppose they were. Lots of jumping, lots of joy, lots of happiness.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a segue.
Unlike Canucks fans, yes.
Well, what do you mean? Stoked about the new coach? No?
Well, you listen, it's going to be an interesting year one way or another. It's never
Right.
boring. Never boring. Where's Ed Willis when you need him to write?
Honestly,
write
Eddie should, with the amount of times that phrase has been used, I hope Eddie, he's got a trademark.
License it. Yeah, exactly.
Three-peat, Pat Riley. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So a week has gone by since the hiring of Adam Foote. Just as you simmered on it, as you've marinated in the news and thought about where this is all going, where's your mind at?
Well, I think a lot about the Bruce Hamilton quote that he gave to Coos on Monday. The head coach is controlling who's going to play. As an assistant, it's never your fault. It's the head coach's fault. Right. And Rick Tocchet weathered that well. That was something that he definitely had come to understand, and perhaps impressively so, because his previous head coaching job had been in a place where there was like one person asking him questions post-game. whether Adam Foote is up for all this, I guess, is the big question. And it's not that, I mean, Rick Tocchet, I would like to shout out Rick Tocchet for going to bat for us, saying we are not bad to deal with, because there are people around the league who claim that we are. And that we ask fair questions and we want to know what's going on. And so just the sort of daily routine, and I used to wonder if Tocchet would get tired. And he even when he would talk to me, afterwards, he said, no. I appreciate you guys. You guys are trying to understand the story. You're trying to tell the story. You're trying to figure out what's going on. And that day in, day out aspect, over and above whatever performance or non-performance you're getting, is going to be, that itself is a challenge. That is part of the job. Adam Foote certainly loves hockey to a level that I think probably most of us have no concept of, because he wasn't just a player, he's been a hockey parent. That routine, how he is going to be able to deal with that day in, day out. How is that going to go for him? And it's a challenge. It's a challenge for anybody, and it's certainly going to be a challenge for a guy that doesn't, in the end, also not have a ton of head coaching experience.
Yeah, and which brings me to the temperament question. And we went through Koos's story yesterday when JPAT was in here, right, and Bruce Hamilton very much basically shouldered all the blame there for everything that went wrong in Kelowna. But, I mean, there were stories about Adam losing his cool and wanting to get into physical altercations. Temperamentally, where are you at on this coach? Because I think clearly he has had to have made strides from Kelowna if he's going to be effective at the NHL level. And there's many who believe, the team's going to take on the personality of a head coach. So if you've got a guy ranting, raving, losing his you-know-what on the officials, on the opposition very often, that's not necessarily a great thing for the even keel of the bench. Where are you on Foote temperamentally?
Well, I touched on that. I mean, I talked to Tocchet after I was on with you last week following the Foote hiring. And so the story came out after. But that was something I mentioned. I said, listen, we've all heard these anecdotes about it was not an easy year, to put it kindly. And Rick didn't avoid it. He said, no, listen, that was something he definitely had to work on. And Tocchet said he's come a long way. A point that was made when I went back to, and I mentioned, we did talk about this one, Matt. But, I go back to that comment Ian Cole gave me about how Foote is a guy that calms the bench down, that guys get frustrated in game, and now it is Foote, in fact, who has played that role. And we all saw Rick Tocchet and how much I think we know he worked on learning how to calm yourself behind the bench. And he mentioned this in the story about, in the end, the players see it. If you lose your head, they are going to lose their head. And that is a hard thing to learn as a coach, but he does believe that Foote has got to where he needs to be. It is, but again, that's the day in, day out challenge. You can go and scream in your office all you want, then that's where you should go do it, right?
Easy to be calm as the assistant, though.
Yeah,
right?
it's easy to be calm as the assistant. When you're dealing with all the everything and the results are directly tied to your job, right?
Yeah.
Like as an assistant, you know if you do a decent job and you get good reviews, you're probably going to get hired somewhere else, right? As a head coach, as a GM, if you don't get it done, the chances of coming back are rare. So yeah, listen, especially when you're a guy that does, again, not have a ton of experience.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you something from your story the other day on Tocchet leaving for Philadelphia.
Right.
I will read verbatim. Rutherford's contract still runs for 2 more years, but his son will graduate from high school next year, so his family dynamic will change at that point. He has vowed to fix what went wrong last season, but what if this keeps going sideways a year from now? What if he has concerns about Quinn Hughes' future? Dun, dun, dun.
It's a question.
Are you knowing something?
No,
that's
just well. I mean, that's just sitting back and looking at all the reasons why Rick Tocchet left, right? Like, and I think I've mentioned this before. Like, where is this going to be a year from now? Like, Jim Rutherford came to win, right? He is not a quitter. But this season went badly. He put it on himself. And you sit there, you go, well, I don't think ownership has any lack of faith in him. But as I've written elsewhere, among other things, this is year 4 now. Things start going sideways in year 4 in general under this regime, under this ownership. And I just sat back and I said, listen, like, I asked Rutherford. I mean, remember, I asked Rutherford at the exit meetings or whatever you call it. I said, Jim, where are you at now? Like, what's your? And he remembered that long pause. He had to collect the answer. What's the answer going to be? And he has said, this is the task he's here. This is the task he's on. I do not expect that he would want to leave, but family, home life is not going to be the same a year from now. That's just a simple truth. And
but again,
he's 76 years old. He's 76 years old.
But guys, who cares?
He's talked often about how much his family loves it here. In fact, I think they like it more than him.
But again, what's the worry here? Like if you are worried, everybody's worried about Quinn Hughes leaving. That is a spectacular player you cannot live without, or you cannot live the same without. Like Jim Rutherford still has not accomplished anything here. If he leaves in a year's time because, amongst all things, this following year, this coming year doesn't go well, what's the worry if he left?
Well, that comes back to the stability thing I've talked about with Tocchet, and that was
been 5 years.
Yeah, but but like above him, who are you working for, right?
Yeah,
like that is the huge. That was a huge. I can tell you that was a huge question. It is not hard to understand that he would have looked and said, who is going to be my boss a year or two from now? In Philly, who your boss is going to be. It's going to be Keith Jones, right? Mm-hmm. There is a bit of a runway there. And there are questions to wonder about with Rutherford. Like I said, he is under contract for 2 more seasons. But he's also, in his late 70s. He also has his second era as a father is shifting. And I don't think he wanted to move his son from school to school to school. In
reinvestigating the Tocchet departure, yes, it has some relevance for sure. I just mean going forward, I don't think Canucks fans have to worry about what if Jim Rutherford leaves in a year. Well, then he leaves.
But in the end,
it's Francesco with a GM under his thumb, and
I think they would probably try to replace.
You think? I don't think.
I mean, you're always going to find someone.
I think that's cost savings. I think that was a measure put in place when the franchise was really chaotic, and I would bet they don't want to pay for that.
But if it's an optimistic year and they make the playoffs, even if they're eliminated in the first round, if it's an optimistic year, I doubt Jim Rutherford leaves with a year left.
No, I doubt it as well. Listen, he has said, I want to fix this, I want to carry forward, and he has said, I want to win a Stanley Cup, right? Mm-hmm. It's not so much, I mean, I guess I sort of said, listen, just as something to think about, he has a family reason to stay.
Yes.
That reason will not be here in a year. I don't think in the end, the big factor is how the team performs, right? He's hired to do the job. He needs to do the job. He needs to get it done.
No, it's an important fact for context. I just don't think people need to worry about it.
Can I throw this bee in your bonnet?
Okay.
And first of all, Blake taught me this several years ago as he was marching towards a big fat round number. When you're 76, you're not in your late 70s. You're still your mid 70s.
Oh yeah.
He's got another year or two before he's
4, 5, 6, and 7 are
fair.
Yeah.
Are all 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all of the mids.
Yeah. And Blake knows mid.
Yeah.
Nobody knows mid.
Fair. Nobody's
Blake
more
Price.
mid than Blake.
Wait, what? The Toronto Maple Leafs have granted permission to the New York Islanders to speak with Brendan Shanahan. Mm-hmm. If the Leafs came calling for Jim Rutherford, Toronto guy, legendary, used to make the driving trips from Pittsburgh up to visit his mother in Toronto.
Yep.
What do you think? You think the Canucks would grant that or say, no, he's our guy? Hands off.
Could you imagine saying no to Jim Rutherford? I don't think I'd want to say no to Jim Rutherford.
But it goes back to, if your guy wants to leave, you're not going to hold back somebody, right?
I don't think so. Listen, if there's a chance to get bought out from a contract, I think this ownership group's on, get clear money in, money out. I think we know how they operate.
Yeah, well, especially this year. Like in other years, I wouldn't have been so sure. But, this year I look at it and go, they seem to be minding the purse strings a little more. Are they anxious to keep paying all these? Because it's a pretty big front office, right? For years, we talked about how thin the front office was, how Benning needed more help. And then Rutherford came in and hired everybody. I mean, everybody got an AGM. It was like Oprah. So I do wonder about that facet of it. Okay. Moving right along, because Jim was on radio last week and once again forecasting a trade before free agency when filling this top two center role. Patrick, if they have to trade a roster defenseman to secure that top two center, Roenick, one of the Petterssons, should they do that? And which one? Or should they just say, nope, the defense is the strength of our team. We're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. Hang up the phone.
I mean, are you talking about someone like Elias Pettersson, like Junior Pettersson? Is that
Elias, Marcus has full no move on July 1st.
I don't think they're moving Marcus.
Trade protection until then. Yeah. And then there's Philip Roenick.
I don't think they're moving Marcus Roenick, Marcus. I don't think they're moving Marcus Pettersson. I don't think they're moving Philip Roenick. I think if they're going to move anything, it is one of those two.
But they also love Elias Pettersson, though. So
they do. But if you're serious about having to get another center, I don't think there's an easy solution to any of this. It's going to be something, if they are really going to do that, it's got to be something drastic. There's just, the options are so challenging, and
cap wise too, right?
Cap wise and managing all that, and like, is there a way to? I mean, one of the other factors is there. They don't have a ton of cap space, but if you move someone like Teddy Bluger somehow, that's a couple more million, right? Like, you give Ratu the job, like.
Yep. Yeah, you can get incremental.
There's incremental bits that you can move, but you're right, Matt. Like, I don't know how you do this without moving someone that off your blue line. But I don't think they are likely to move Roenick, and I don't think they're likely to move Marcus Pettersson. I just don't. Or Tyler Myers.
Process of elimination, Patrick is trading D. Petey. Gotcha.
Well, if it's coming from the D, though. But no one wants to trade Connor Garland, but you might have to trade Connor Garland.
Yeah, but then who's playing on the wing, right? Like, you start running out of guys.
But that's the least important position.
That's the position of weakness right now, though. Like, you're going to further deplete from your weakest position of goals.
It's the least important position. Yeah. And you got young kids that are coming up with that prowess, like Lacramaki. So
you have one.
Yeah.
You have one.
Yeah. That's one.
What if, here's a crazy one. What if you, like, someone just threw
Cletus Carlson?
This is not someone who knows anything. This is a friend of mine said, would you consider, do you think the Leafs would consider trading the rights for Brock Besser for the rights for Mitch Marner? And I went, oh God.
No,
I don't think so either.
What about Marner, since you bring him up?
I have a hard time imagining him coming here. Like, you know, I get, you never say never, but I just have a hard time imagining that happening. And especially if you are looking to fill holes and you need to bring in a center, are you going to spend money on a winger?
But he's a creator from the wing, so you could put somebody less accomplished in the middle, and you still have a pretty good.
Yeah, I suppose
he's a center on the wing.
Yeah, I mean, if you are going to roll the dice and say Phil Petel has to be the guy and come hell or high water, and somehow we're going to help him get through this, then yeah, sure. But I just that to me seems like such a risk to take. I just have a hard time imagining it.
It's just too big a piece of the cap pie too. Like he's going to be demanding in the low to mid teens of millions, and I don't think the Canucks can do that given where they're at cap wise right now. If you delete OEL from your cap, you're in a different spot, obviously. And I have been looking ahead to that, PJ, of just like, maybe this is just grinding out your existence for 2 more years until the Canucks can, get another $3 million effectively.
I think fundamentally you have to operate on the assumption, and I've said this before, that you have 2 more years of Quinn Hughes. That you cannot bank on Quinn Hughes being here, and so therefore you have to go for it this year as best you can. And I just don't know. I don't think you're building a true contender, but
how do you even do that?
Last question. Are you still a member in good standing at the Mariloma Rugby Club in Kitsilano?
Sure. Well, no, I'm not a member, but I can show up and show my face for sure.
Really? They'll let you in the clubhouse?
Yes.
Because I drive by the clubhouse often.
I can take you there anytime, Matt.
Well, that's my question. Because I drive by there often. The other day, drove by on just a beautiful sunsplash day. My brother and I are looking at the fields and everything that's going on, and he goes, "That clubhouse looks really cool." I go, "I know." He's like,
"Never been in there?"
I'd like to have a pint in that clubhouse.
We're gonna go.
Like, me too. Okay. I said, "I think I've got a connection there."
we'll go.
Okay.
You can just walk in anytime. Can I tell you one great story?
Well, I want to go with a member. I want to know.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Norm
A quick story. I want to pay tribute.
Cheers.
I want to pay tribute to someone. My friend Dan Fumano, my colleague Dan Fumano. His dad Gus passed away last year. Gus Fumano was one of these Vancouver legendary guys. You don't meet them anymore. He was a headhunter as a job, so his job was meeting people. And here we are. I was leaving. This was like 10, 12. It's whenever. This is like 15 years ago. It's whenever Chris Galis moved to Vancouver. And I'm standing outside. There had been a thing at the club. I was leaving. I had to go somewhere. Gus is there changing his boots because the old guys used to go for walks. And there's a rugby game, so he's putting on his boots to stand on the side of the field. I go over to say hello. And while we're chatting, Chris Galis, who is, this is how long ago it was. I read about him in the newspaper. Oh, here's the news host. He's walking home, I guess, from I think he'd been to the Kits gym. He's walking home. Gus starts yapping at him. And within about 5 minutes, I realized these two guys have never met each other before. But Chris is a journalist and Gus is a headhunter, and their jobs literally was to chat people up. So they're just having this gab fest. And about 10 minutes in, Gus goes, "Are you familiar with the Mariloma Club?" Because we knew that Chris was a rugby guy. And he goes, "Oh, well, I've heard about it." "Well, you ever been inside?" And he took him inside. And Chris joined the over 40s team that day.
Wow.
So shout out Gus Fumano, the late
Hold
great
on a
Gus
second.
Fumano.
I hope you're not telling tales out of school here.
Go ask him.
Globo's got a big investment in that face. Like, it
Go
can't
ask
get
him.
all beat up at the
Well,
bottom
no,
of
he
a
went and
rugby
played. It was the play
scrum.
touch. It was the play touch.
Oh,
Go
touch.
ask him.
Okay.
Well, no, he maybe played over
And
40
of course,
games. I don't know.
Galis was at the gym. Have you
Can
seen
you
him?
imagine an
Yes.
over?
Which way the gym at, bro?
That's how you make it on TV, fellas.
And he does fantastic work.
Anyway, go ask him. There's your
And the
Marilona
other thing is, he's not one of these stiff news presenters either. I've seen him work MC duties. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyway. Yes,
Okay, Mariloma Club, you, me, and a pint at some point
Yeah, we'll
here.
do it. All right.
Coming soon. Thank you.
See ya.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. This next segment brought to you by the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club, now open for the 2025 season, taking your online bookings for any time. Get those times locked in. And the Bears are back. They may tend the flag for you, Blake.
That's good. As long as they're not tending my garbage, that's fine.
And if you've got a group of 12 or more, been telling you this here for the last week or so, if you can play midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so there was a big group up there yesterday at the Whistler Golf Club, ask about the Harrison Price midweek specials. Al Chris Manson, director of golf up there, are going to take good care of you and your group of 12. Go to whistlergolf.com/groups. And, of course, follow on social media at Whistler
Plus,
Golf.
easier to get restaurant reservations midweek as well. So.
Very true.
Yeah.
Here's Rob Williams, the editor in the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports Vertical, fresh after running Noah Strang out of the building.
Yeah. Why are you chasing Noah away? We like Noah.
We loved Noah. In fact, when I think of the tweets that we put up during the course of our show as visuals.
More Strang than Williams.
I was going to say, Noah Strang has got to be right there with J-Pat, vying for the gold medal and number one in the power rankings.
I was getting insecure. I didn't like not having the attention. No,
There it is. The truth comes out.
No,
Boy,
you know
Noah?
what, guys? Yeah, sad to see Noah go. He's going back to school, going to NYU. He's going to be a much more famous sports journalist than all of us here one day. I'm sure. I said this on Twitter yesterday, but something that continually happens because we've only got one seat in the press box, like as all the outlets do. So I'm rarely at Rogers Arena at the same time as Noah, so I'm not there hanging out with him. But so when I'm there, I constantly would get people telling me, Noah's doing like a really good job. Like Noah's like really great in this. Noah, and I think you guys have said the same thing to me as well. And, so hearing that over and over and over, and I think it was really cool just kind of seeing him establish himself as as one of the voices on the Canucks beat and doing that. So that was really cool.
He did a marvelous job. He took to it like fish to water. And now, where do they send their resumes, Rob?
Haven't posted it yet, but we will be.
Okay.
And we'll have somebody new covering the Canucks for us for next season. So looking forward.
All right. Well, I hope you coach them up in the ways of the Daily Hive and offside. Rob, our first opportunity to talk to you since the hiring of Adam Foote. What did you make of the new Canucks head coach and his introductory press conference?
It was fine, I guess. I think this was the most boring decision they could have made. Right? It doesn't mean it's the wrong decision. It could very well be the right decision, but I mean, he was on Rick Tocchet's staff. That's his most relevant experience in this, and it seems as though that the familiarity with the players was a key component to the hiring, right? But I think it's missing a little bit of the excitement. If it was Manny Malhotra, I think there'd be an extra buzz about what is Manny going to do that's different. How is he going to approach things? Obviously, former Canucks player from that 2011 team, so that would have been fun, I think.
Coming off an impressive AHL run, all that.
Exactly, and if they brought someone else in from another organization, learning all about this new coach, I think would have given us lots to chew on. So for the content side of things, this was not a great move, but that doesn't mean that it is the wrong move. I like everyone else. I think I don't know if it wouldn't have been my choice. I don't think he has the resume of the other candidates. He's been an assistant coach under Tocchet. That's very good for your resume. He knows the market. That's great. The Kelowna experience, from all accounts, was not a good one, and that's the only time he's led a bench. So I think he's got a lot to prove here. Tocchet speaks very highly of him, and I think, and Quinn Hughes, of course, spoke very highly of him. I think the defense under him, had shown a lot. He had done a lot with some patchwork players at times. So I don't think it's fair to lambaste this and just say this is a terrible decision. But I do think it opens up the Canucks to some criticism here because he doesn't have the resume of some other candidates that were available.
I'm open to being surprised in the win and loss columns. I'm open to the possibility there. I'm less bullish, optimistic about the level of excitement that this team might play for. Are we just going to see a team that defends its way to victory here next season?
Certainly seems like it, right? I mean, they're hanging their hat right now on the goaltending and defense, and they've hired one of the most famous defensive defensemen from the 1990s as their head coach, right? So yeah. It certainly seems that way. I'm going to be very interested to see who they hire as new assistants on the bench, because they do need a couple guys on there. So are they going to hire someone with, I think it would be obvious. I think it's obvious to say it would make sense to hire someone with a ton of experience to go with your head coach that doesn't have a lot of experience. So do they get someone that's got a great offensive mind, someone that's really going to get the power play in order and those sorts of things? It remains to be seen. I think the biggest thing also is just there's all the talk about Quinn Hughes and does Quinn Hughes like this hire? I think the really important thing here is this the right coach for Elias Pettersson? Because if Pettersson's not right, I don't think this team's going anywhere. And if this team's not going anywhere, I think that reduces the chances of Quinn Hughes wanting to re-sign here.
We asked this the other day to many opinions and many votes on our daily poll question. Mitch Marner, Rob, should the Canucks pursue Mitch Marner in free agency?
I think he'd be a great addition for the Canucks. I don't think there's any hope in hell that he's coming here. If you're Mitch Marner, I feel like Vancouver has all of the things that he could probably, it's like he's a Toronto guy. He always dreamt about playing for the Maple Leafs. So you'd want to stay in Toronto for that reason. The reason to get out of Toronto would be the media pressure. Well, this is probably the closest thing to Toronto in the National Hockey League right now, where you're going to have a short leash, with the fans and media. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to come to Vancouver of all places. So I just don't. I mean, I probably just wouldn't waste my time. I mean, if you could get him, if you thought you had an inside track to get him, absolutely, like, spend the money. I would do that in a heartbeat. But like when you think about it, like I just probably wouldn't waste my time, because I don't think there's a chance that he comes to Vancouver.
All right, let's ask you this one then. If they are going to acquire a top 2 center by trade, and Jim Rutherford putting out more rumblings late last week that, looks like trade before free agency. If that's going to cost you a roster defenseman, Rob, which one are you moving? Roenick, D. Petey, Marcus Pettersson, none of the above? You're not making that trade at all? What says you about moving a roster defenseman for a top 2 center this summer?
I absolutely hate the idea of them moving like good young defensemen. I think if you trade Hronek, now you need to find another top 4 defenseman. So I don't think that's just robbing Peter to pay Paul. I don't think you can do that one, not until you see more progress from your young defensemen anyways. I don't love the idea of them trading picks and prospects for like a center. Like, if you're going to do that, you better be finding like the guy for sure. But otherwise, like, I'm kind of the mind, like, you can't just get into this panic move to just be like, oh my God, maybe this will squeak us into the playoffs. Like, you've got to have a bit of a long-term lens here. I know Quinn Hughes, I know that decision is coming, but I just don't think that you can go all in for one season just to think that, okay, that's going to change things for Hughes. I think Hughes is going to look at the long-term vision as well, and that's going to play a part here. So I guess I'm kind of punting on the question here a little bit.
Williams?
I don't love it. I guess if I'm picking there, then I think you probably have to say D. Petey, because you can't. There's no point in weakening your defense here. And now you need another. Like, they desperately needed a top 4 defenseman last year. They went out and got Marcus Pettersson. Well, now you're going to ship out another top 4 defenseman. Like, what is D. Petey? Like, is he a top? I don't think he's a top 4 guy yet. So, like, I guess you have to trade one of those young defensemen. I just hate the thought of it. I guess it depends who does that get you in return? Like, is that going to get you some guy that ends up being a third liner in a year or two? Like, I want to know who the other guy is that they get back.
All right.
It's going to be a very difficult summer for them.
Well, I'm glad you got around to giving me a name there, Williams, because we're not trading these guys. He doesn't want to trade picks and prospects. I mean, Noah Strang is not walking through that door without something going out. We got to give to get here.
We're 5 weeks to the draft. We're 6 weeks to free agency. Which is is this happening in the next 5 weeks? Do we know the Canucks second line center in the next 5 weeks? Yeah?
I think so. I mean, if they're dropping hints that it's not going to come in free agency, the guy that I think that, like, if he got to free agency, I feel like they're offering the sun, earth, and moon for Sam Bennett. But so is every other team in the NHL, and he's likely going to get overpaid if he doesn't get re-signed by the Panthers first. So, otherwise, like, I think this probably comes down by the draft, right? Like, I think we're going to be finding out quite a bit in the next month here about what the team does next year. You know what my big fear is, I think, in all of this, guys, is, like, do you remember that summer where they make the OEL trade and, like, they give up the first round pick and they do all these things, and it was kind of classic Jim Benning trying to fix everything in one summer?
Yeah.
That's just my concern, is that they try to fix everything, and Benning tried to fix things not just in the summer, he would try to fix it by July 1st. That was kind of the thing where I was like, okay, like, I'm worried that they're just going to go in and be like, okay, let's fix it all now. Let's turn it all around right now. Great if it works, but you're making some bets in that situation.
Well, that's why I've been peddling this idea that, like, the patience is a virtue for sure, but also acting when other people aren't acting. Like, that's why I'm sort of wondering about this possibility of trading away, like, paying for a UFA to be right now. Trading a roster player to get some salary flexibility to sign a player before they reach July 1st. It's not a customary route, but for this Canuck team that's cap tight, maybe you peel off an asset and with an eye to creating some room, and you talk to a UFA to B and you sign them that way.
You know what I'm hearing, Rob? I'm hearing that somebody had a long flight from Frankfurt,
Thinking
opened
about
up
things?
a couple of bottles of the mini wines there, and put his thinking cap on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind that idea. I think you make that move with a bit of intel, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think
yeah, sure.
I think it's probably rare that you make these moves where you trade for a pending UFA and don't have any semblance of an idea of what
Correct.
this player is looking for and what their appetite is.
You can do that with a
to
late
come to
pick.
Vancouver.
You can peel off a fourth rounder to do that, but you're not actually trading something of substance. If you want something of substance, Team A, I'm going to give you this guy, but we need to talk to him first.
I mean, I guess it depends whether you're, I mean, I guess it depends. It depends on, like, okay, if you peel off this asset, let's say it's even a third round pick to get this asset. Does that make or break your chances of getting this player, right? Like, if you get to talk to him for like a week before July 1st, if that makes or breaks you getting that player, if that means that you get that player at maybe a bit of a discount than they're going to get after July 1st, because I think the money is going to be silly this year, especially.
Yeah, well, you get the eighth year, so that brings down the cap hit a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
But I think if you can do that and it makes or breaks, then I think absolutely it's worth giving up a pick rather than being there on July 1st and money's flying everywhere and players are coming off the board and all of a sudden you get caught into a panic move and you overspend for a player that you don't really love.
Rob, for a long period of time here before last year's return to the Stanley Cup playoffs, there were two facets of the Vancouver Canucks organization that I thought performed very, very well. One was everyone who had something to do with their theme nights and particularly their theme jerseys, some absolutely beautiful artwork. Was commissioned there for Diwali nights and Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. And the other part of the operation that I thought was really above par was the Canucks Bar and Grill at YVR in the U.S. terminal. Had many a breakfast there on my way to somewhere in the United States. Lunch as well.
A marginal breakfast.
No, I thought the breakfast was pretty good, actually. It was very nice.
Hard to screw up eggs.
Honestly, my was there with my parents a couple of months ago. My mom is not an easy sell. She said, this is quite good. Alas, the Canucks Bar and Grill is no more at YVR. What's the story there?
Icon's Sports Bar and Grill is what you'll see if you're flying to the United States now. It's been kind of quietly replaced. Like it's been like this apparently for a few weeks. I haven't taken a flight to the U.S. in a little while, so I hadn't seen it for myself. But saw a photo from actually Daily Hive's Ken Chan snapped a photo while he was at the terminal, and I was like, oh, that's definitely a change. You can still see the blue and green stripes out on the outside, but that's about it. It's a sports bar, but it's not a Canucks themed sports bar anymore. Picture of Alphonso Davies now on the outside. Where this is, I don't know if you guys remember the fanfare that this came with when it first opened. I looked back into the archives. 2013, Mike Gillis was there for the opening. Jason Garrison was there for the opening.
Oh, wow.
For the ribbon cutting ceremony. It used to have a little gift shop out the front selling Canucks merchandise. Of course, this was like, I think in those days they were really starting to count the possibilities, after 2011 of like, okay, we're going on playoff runs every year. The Canucks are hot, and it didn't exactly go that way. But yeah, the Canucks Bar and Grill is gone. It's no longer at the.
Is it symptomatic of anything? Do you extrapolate from it or not?
No, I mean, I guess they partnered with some like airport restaurant management company. I guess that was the situation.
It's an arrangement rather than any actual investment into it, really, huh?
Exactly. But like I say, like it was like if you look at like the fanfare from like it's a long time ago now, I'd forgotten all about it. But like there was like tons of fanfare when this started. This was a big deal for them when it first opened and was kind of a unique thing.
Yes.
The other thing I was thinking about is like, you know, that gift shop that's just around the corner from there that like sells like a bunch of like sports merchandise. I see that every now and then you'll see like people taking photos of it, and it's like filled with Blue Jays and Raptors stuff.
Yes,
and
it
it's
is.
Just like, and there's like tons of Toronto stuff and not a ton of Vancouver stuff. In there.
Yeah.
We'll have to do an expose on that one day, because they got to get that sorted out.
Bizarre.
I'm not sure what the deal is there.
Yeah.
They sell the merchandise that sells.
Yeah, they're in the business of doing
They're
that.
in
Yeah.
the business of selling merchandise.
you
I
tell
think
me
they
that-
know what's coming off the shelves and what isn't.
You tell me.
I mean, it was a dark.
You tell me Blake's C's hat there wouldn't sell at
For
at
sure.
YVR?
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
yeah.
In fact, our friend Rich in the 9 O'Clock Gun Company has a stand.
He's got a stand there, yeah.
I bought
Yeah, there you go.
stuff from there. And, the licensing possibilities coming out of 2011 were astronomical. I was just thinking, though, Gillis attended. Could you imagine poor Joan, his executive assistant? So, Mike, today you have to go to YVR. You're going to have to clear security because you're going to the U.S. terminal to cut a ribbon with Garrison.
Just what he
gotta
wanted
see-
to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We should pull up the picture there. It's a classic Mike Gillis, like facial expression. Like,
Does he have the beard? Is that
No,
bearded
no,
goatee
no.
Gillis? No, that's pre.
No,
Okay.
It was pre the crisis beard. Crisis goatee is not formed yet.
Solidarity. Yep. Great stuff, Rob. Thank you for this. Until next week, and pity about Noah, but
Yeah.
they've got your Twitter account, your X account. I mean, just you can send your material that way to Rob.
Thanks, guys.
So, Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, where you turn game night into a game weekend. Book your stay here at the Wall. Enjoy an exclusive Harrison Price rate. Call the hotel 604-331-1000. Ask for us by name. We'll ask for our rate. Some blackout date supply based on availability.
Martin, Whitecaps coach, was his name?
Rennie.
Ready.
Weekend. Whitecaps head into Real Salt Lake on Saturday, having rested Ranko Veselinovic, Sebastian Berhalter, Pedro Vite, Brian White, and Ocampo in full for that 2-2 draw against Valor FC on Tuesday.
Berhalter came in.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, came in late.
He did not show as having minutes played on the sheet.
Oh, okay.
70 regular starters, so they shouldn't be too worn out for Saturday, despite a midweek game. Bit of a longer break, too. Normally play Wednesday, they play Tuesday. The unbeaten streak is at 13, but Mr. Blake Price, play-by-play voice on Apple MLS Season Pass, the last 3 matches haven't exactly inspired the most confidence, and we're picking nits now because they were absolutely dominating teams.
Yeah.
Earlier in this season, but it's also been pretty clear over the last 3 matches that they aren't the same team they were earlier.
So
Are they finally missing Ryan Gauld here? What's your sense?
Well,
of
he would provide a great spark for this team because, if these are their losses and they've gotten a single point out of them, like if they now get hot again, then you're like, oh my God, how good is this team? Where they're really bad games or draws. So they need to make sure that's the thing. And let's make no mistake about it. If they continued on the pace that they were on, they would have blown away MLS records in the standings. So they were going to cool off a little bit. What I see is a team that was just, they built, and they were on such a clip that there's this hangover effect here. And again, if this is the hangover, if it's single points instead of 0 points, you take that a million times. So you just have to make sure that, and if you're Esper Sorensen, I'm sure that's what he's thinking of. This is fine if this is the bad stretch, So let's hope that that's the case. They need to they need to show video. They need to remind these guys what it was they were doing. And they need to get in the swing of things. Because of the schedule, because of injuries, they haven't had a moment where they had a medium amount of games and full health, where rotation was expected and normalized, and they knew where they haven't had that. They kind of got hot while holding on by the ends of their fingertips in terms of the roster because of all the injuries. So,
and all the midweek games.
So I hope Ryan Gauld is back sooner rather than later. I'm not super optimistic for no particular reason. Just
Well, I mean, it's already been much longer than they suspected. My theory, the last two opponents just haven't gotten their attention.
and that's
Valor, a CPL side in the opening leg of what is, I mean, as we've talked about, they still haven't concluded last year's CONCACAF Champions
And a heavily
tournament, and
rotated
they've started
squad.
This one.
Yeah.
Also, that Austin team just plays a death knell version of soccer. They don't score goals. They don't prevent goals. It was a really fugly game.
And on the road, so you don't care.
Right. So that can't explain all three, but I think the last two really, it's been a motivation issue.
I think you go back to like your starting lineup as you saw it in the CONCACAF semis. So like go back to that and see what they give you.
I would agree. Sebastian Berhalter has been called up to the U.S. men's national team training camp. Tristan Blackman was not.
Brian White as well, yes. So the two of them,
Tristan Blackman was not. So there you go, Canada. Go naturalize him. Get him a passport. Make him Canadian. You followed that story?
I did, and he is really exactly what they need in terms of age and all that sort of stuff. Like they brought in Canada also announced their roster a couple days ago, and Waterman's going, but Waterman is a little past due, and he's not terribly mobile. And then you got the two kids in Knight Labelle and Diffusion, but I don't know that they're necessarily ready for prime time either. Blackman's playing the best soccer of his career right now. He would be pretty perfect.
At center back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's that French guy?
Luc Diffusion. I called a lot of French games at the World, so my French is buttoned down right now. Yeah.
Silent T's.
T's.
Oftentimes there's a silent T.
Yeah, not a Diffusion though.
No. Whitecaps FC are headed to Mexico, of course, to play the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup final Sunday, June 1st versus Cruz Azul in Mexico City. This is the first time in club history the Whitecaps have ever reached this final. Only the third time a Canadian team has reached this final. And if you want to go, enter for a chance to win 2 tickets, 2 flights, 2 nights.
Wow.
At the hotel and 2 jerseys. Check out whitecapsfc.com/final. The Vancouver Canadians have lost a franchise-worst 6 games in a row. Never before in their history at this level have they lost 6 in a row. And the last time it happened, this week last year.
Oh.
May 18th to 23rd last year, they lost 6 in a row. Here we sit, May 22nd, they've lost 6 in a row. Cal Steven.
Dog days of May, I guess.
Just up from Dunedin, the Blue Jays' number 10 prospect. He makes his Vancouver Canadians debut tonight against Eugene. And, of course, they need some home cooking as well. And they'll be back at the Nat on Tuesday. It's South Asian Heritage Night, post-game fireworks, Friday nooner. And remember, next Saturday, Trey Savage, the Blue Jays' number 2 prospect, just called up as well. He makes his Nat Bailey Stadium debut. Get your tickets, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Well done, Vancouver Rise in the new Northern Super League. They beat Halifax 2-1. They move into a first-place tie in the league with Montreal. 3 wins, 2 draws in 6 matches. And they're back at it Saturday at Swangard against Calgary. That's a 4 p.m. kickoff. See, Canadians got to get going because the other teams are winning here. Right? Whitecaps are winning. Rise are winning.
The summer standard is very high right now. I suspect the Leos will be pretty good this year as well. So, pretty good.
Yeah.
They're not going to have
a
losing
record.
record.
Down a peg last year. They went from the second best team in the West to the third best team in the West.
But that was a
They
shot.
still got to get over Mount Winnipeg there.
If the Lions got the real Nathan Rourke last year, they would have been just fine. They didn't. I think Nathan Rourke's going to have a good year.
Poll question results, Bogey Juice poll question results. We asked you, is Adam Foote's lack of NHL head coaching experience your biggest concern? Yes or no? The people said
yes.
Correct. Percentage?
60.
Yeah, right on the number, Blake. Very well done.
Nice.
Fresh off the plane from Frankfurt.
Right?
Graham, it's his lack of good players that will be his biggest hurdle. Yeah, we saw a lot of that. Personnel. What sort of personnel are his bosses going to get?
Yeah, and I'm asking him to score goals, but with whom, right? Like, to be fair to him, if he doesn't score goals, we have to see who they get. But
yeah. Thomas, we've seen that NHL coaching experience is not necessarily required, i.e. Spencer Carberry is the latest example. Biggest concern is defensive mindset. How will that translate to his offensive system? Well, you addressed that last week. Chef says, I'm worried about his headspace with his son currently going through the World Junior Hockey sexual assault trial.
that will be over sooner rather than later, you would think.
Yeah. Darren said, I answered no. Bring a veteran. The consensus becomes need fresh blood, new thinking. Bring in a young coach, and he doesn't have experience. How can you have concerns when you have nothing to base it on? Let's see what he has to work with and what he does with it first. And fair enough, Darren, I hear where you're at. There is a record and a resume in Kelowna, although Bruce Hamilton came out this week in the province with Ben Kuzma and basically said, no, put all the blame on me, that it was his mistake. He put Adam in a bad spot for his first ever head coaching gig. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. Man, I just screwed everything up about our NFL segment yesterday. First of all, I was under the impression that it was 10 votes against the tush push. It was 10 votes for the tush push.
Yes. But they needed 24.
That's
they got 22.
right. They needed 24. They only got 22 to ban the tush push. Then I was also under the impression that when we said one NFLer per team for flag football, that meant that the national teams could only have one NFLer per side.
You could lose a Canadian and an American.
You can have the U.S. could have a full team of Americans playing flag football at the LA games. It's just one player per NFL team allowed to try out for a certain national team.
Right, but if you have a Canadian on that, if the Bears lose an
Canada.
American, then you can also lose a Canadian.
That's right.
Yes,
that's right.
And they actually have one. They still have them? Yes.
Yeah, they have. Well, I'm not sure if the not sure offensive tackle
No, he's not a candidate. He's not a candidate.
Is your best.
No.
Is your best athletic profile for flag football. And then failed to mention Masson Leslie, Vancouver Giants captain, traded to Kelowna. We were talking about the Rockets.
The rights to him. Highly unlikely he plays there, I would say. He's got a Bowling Green commit, and he's also got an option to play in the pros. So
and it's a couple of conditional picks.
Yeah.
Barring anything from the inbox, we know Blake had a perfectly. Oh, boy, you were great all week. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on Mayo's platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us telling you about. And keep it local.